This is a collection of eerie, personal tales, each unfolding on seemingly ordinary summer nights, yet revealing moments where reality blurs into the unknown. These chilling narratives explore the darker shadows lurking beneath the surface of warm evenings we often take for granted. My name is Chris. This all took place years ago, something I hadn't thought about until recently. I was 17 that summer, working the night shift at a small pizza joint on the outskirts of my hometown. I wasn't thrilled with the job, but without money and two parents who have freaked out if I wasn't working, I had no choice but to keep at it. It was one of those gigs you take because there's nothing else available. Slow nights, sticky uniforms, and a beat-up delivery car that struggled to climb even small hills. At least I didn't have to drive my own car, which would have been a nightmare given the state of the delivery vehicle. Oh, and not that this really matters, but the pizza was horrendous, truly awful. I don't understand how anyone in their right mind ordered from that place. Honestly, if it wasn't for the tech and somewhat decent atmosphere, I doubt we would have gotten a single order. It's definitely the one thing I missed the least from my hometown, and that says a lot. The only upside was the rarity of orders, probably because of the bad pizza or the shop's remote location, leading to quiet, uneventful nights. I won't bore you with all the mundane details of a typical night. It was a pizza place. You can imagine the rest. One night, while restocking the fridge with drinks, the tablet buzzed with an online order, a large sausage and olive pizza. I remember it because we never had olives on the menu. The address was way out, well past our usual delivery zone. I was about to reject it out of habit, but my manager, Russell, a guy in his 30s who mostly scrolled Reddit in the back, told me to take it since we hadn't had a delivery in a while. I didn't argue. When the pizza was ready, I put in the directions, grabbed the pie, and headed out. At least this would break up the slow night. As I prepared to leave, I noticed the delivery instructions attached to the box, which I hadn't looked at before. They read verbatim: park on the street behind the house, walk through the backyard, knock on the back door only. That gave me pause, but my 17-year-old mind rationalized it. Maybe they didn't want to wake someone inside, an elderly person or kid, or maybe the front door was under repair. Perhaps they wanted to hide the delivery from a partner or parent. I could think of plenty plausible reasons. Mostly, I was just eager to get out and do the delivery to avoid another dull evening folding boxes. So, I decided to do my job, but stepping outside, an uneasy feeling crept in. The summer night hung heavy and still, like walking through thick soup. The air was hot, humid, and utterly motionless, almost stuck in an invisible jelly. There was a sour, stale smell, like old plastic and sun-baked dirt, something I hate more than anything. I rolled the windows down for a couple of minutes, but gave up, turning the AC on full blast. The delivery address was in the opposite direction of downtown, even though our pizza place was already on the town's edge. The drive was supposed to take around 25 minutes, but with how deserted the roads were, it felt longer. There were some houses along the way, but the density dropped as I drove farther out. When I arrived, I found myself behind the house. A narrow street ran parallel to a series of backyards, without streetlights or porch lamps. It was all shadows. I slowed down and double-checked the house number. The place looked lifeless. No lights, no cars, just an overgrown yard and a rickety fence that didn't close properly. Still, I followed the instructions. I parked on a gravel shoulder, carried the pizza box and flashlight, angling the beam down to avoid tripping. At the top of the slope was the back door, an old white one with a small glass pane covered by a cheap curtain. I knocked once. No answer. Knocked twice, aware my manager would be furious if I came back empty-handed. Just as I was about to knock a third time, I caught the curtain twitch, a subtle motion like a finger brushing the glass. I kept staring, expecting the door to open. Then, two unmarked cars pulled onto the side street behind my car. Panic set in. The door of one car opened, and a man stepped out. I could see him in the faint light. A man in plain clothes holding something in his hand. As I approached, I realized it was a badge. He was an undercover cop. He ordered me to return to my vehicle and wait there. No explanations. I obeyed, slowly backing away, climbing into the car. From my window, I watched as 5 or more officers circled the house silently, flashlights in hand, making no announcement. No knocks, no voices, just shadows moving cautiously. One officer gently tested the back door handle I'd knocked on. When it didn't open, he nodded and backed away. It felt like I was witnessing something secretive, something I wasn't supposed to see. Eventually, the undercover officer returned, crouched by my window, glanced at the pizza box inside. He spoke vaguely about an ongoing investigation related to that house and apologized for the delay in their intervention. Apparently, I had shown up just as they were repositioning. I offered to show him the delivery order, which he looked at without much interest, just a name, address, and phone number that didn't help much. He took down the phone number, told me firmly to leave, and walked away. I told him my boss would kill me for returning without completing the delivery, but he shrugged. I drove off, angry and frustrated. It took the entire ride home for it to sink in. If the police hadn't stepped in, something dreadful could have occurred. I didn't know what, but the timing of the police arrival seemed to be the only reason the occupant hadn't opened the door. Why would someone order a pizza while under surveillance? Perhaps the person inside was unaware of being watched, or maybe I was part of a test to see if the police were monitoring that side of the property. The curtain moving, the silence, the perfect timing. It all felt suspicious. To this day, I'll never know what happened that night. Thinking about it is mostly pointless. I likely would have forgotten it again if a high school friend hadn't brought it up recently, stirring those old memories. It's probably best to leave it as a mystery, but I wanted to share it here before it slips away again. My name's Jason. This happened just last year, and I'm still trying to process it. I'm 40 now, married with 2 boys, ages 7 and 5. I work in insurance. Boring but stable, which is all I need these days. A couple of years back, my dad passed away after battling cancer. He left behind a beach house in Delaware that I'd never been to because he rented it out year-round. It's nothing fancy, just a modest place a block from the boardwalk with an upstairs back deck overlooking the ocean. Since his passing, it's become our family's escape. Weekends and weeks there, a little tradition we treasure. The boys adore it, spending hours on the sand, biking, and exploring town. It feels like a gift from my dad. This story took place during one of those summer visits, mid-July, a Wednesday night. The boys had gone to bed around 9:30 after a sun-drenched day, and my wife and I were unwinding on the back deck, playing cards and sipping wine. Then our older son, Jordan, came outside looking uneasy. He said he'd been hearing scratching noises in his room that kept him awake. I glanced at my wife and told Jordan I'd check it out, thinking it was probably just typical old house sounds. The boys have separate rooms, so I didn't want to disturb our younger son. I followed Jordan downstairs to his bedroom. He pointed toward the wall beside his bed and signaled me to be quiet. At first, nothing, but after about 20 seconds, I heard a faint, soft scratching sound, definitely real. I crouched down, pressing my ear to the wall. It wasn't an animal on the roof or anything up high. The noise was low, near the baseboards. Then came something far more chilling. Deep, slow human breathing. I flinched back, startled, and involuntarily shouted Jesus. Then came the most guttural, angry scream I've ever heard, coming from inside the very wall beside us. It caught me completely off guard. Panic hit me like a punch to the gut. I grabbed Jordan's arm and pulled him from the room. We rushed down the hall to get Scott, our younger son, who was still asleep. I didn't even let him open his eyes. I scooped him up and bolted back upstairs. The only thing on my mind was safety, getting back to the deck where my wife was. As we reached the stairs base, I called out to her. Suddenly, a scream echoed, closer this time. I turned and froze. A filthy, ragged man was charging down the hallway straight toward us. I almost tripped trying to carry both my boys up the stairs, but we made it just as he slammed into the sliding glass door behind us. He pounded on the glass with terrifying force, smearing something dark across it. Dirt or blood, I don't know. He shrieked and clawed at the door with wild fury. I threw myself against it, yelling for my wife to grab the kids and call the police. She covered their ears and pulled them away from the chaos. I kept my eyes locked on the man, blocking his horrific image from my family. He was completely unhinged, seemingly fueled by endless energy. I held the door shut for what felt like forever. Maybe 1 minute, maybe 5. Then, finally, the police arrived. They must have come around the side because 2 officers burst inside, tackling the man to restrain him. What happened afterward blurred into a surreal haze. After the man was secured in a squad car, the officers asked me for details. I told them everything. Together, we searched the house for how he'd gotten inside and escaped so quickly. It turned out there was a crawl space I'd never known about. Its entrance hidden beneath the back porch. It led into a standing crawl space running alongside the foundation, with a secret access point inside Jordan's closet through a loose panel. I hadn't inspected the house thoroughly when I inherited it, and I certainly hadn't bothered renovating or sealing the crawl space. A few days later, a detective called. The man admitted to living in that crawl space for months. He found the entrance during the off-season and had been stealing food from our house and neighbors' trash bins. He'd planned to harm my family that night, seeing the house as his new home and us as intruders. We didn't return for the rest of the summer, not out of fear, but trauma. I hired a team to seal off the crawl space, and only then could I start to relax. We've been back to the beach house this summer, and thankfully things feel normal again, or at least as normal as they can be after such an ordeal. But the memory of that night, the man behind the wall, the terror, still haunts me. I grew up in a rural area where you could bike for miles without seeing another soul. Like many, summer was always my favorite season, a feeling that hasn't faded, though living in the city has dimmed some of that magic. The sense of warmth, solitude, and emptiness I found out there was unmatched. It was my private corner of the world, a place where I could disappear for hours unnoticed. Summer nights held a special kind of freedom and privacy that the young girl I was desperately craved. I was 16 at the time and had a friend named Taylor who was a little wilder than me, always pushing boundaries in small ways. One random July night, we decided to go stargazing, just the 2 of us, our bikes, and a bottle of wine. It wasn't our first time. We did this often until that night changed everything. We had no real plan, just a direction, and Taylor said she knew a spot beyond town, an abandoned stretch of farmland where we wouldn't be disturbed. We left around 10 p.m. and biked for what felt like 20 or 30 minutes until we reached this wide open field. No buildings, fences, or cows, just grass stretching out beneath a sky full of stars. We spread a blanket and popped the cheap red wine Taylor brought. The night was perfect. Our goal was always the same, to spot a shooting star. Taylor asked if I thought we would see one. I told her probably not, but to keep watching anyway. Those stars shone so brightly far from city lights, but spotting a shooting star still required luck and attention. The wine slowly loosened us, the night feeling timeless. There was a brief moment, almost like a blip, when Taylor looked at me in a way that made me wonder if she felt more for me than just friendship. I never said anything. Feelings like that weren't spoken aloud where we came from, and maybe I was just reading too much into it. The moment passed when she caught sight of a shooting star, and we both laughed and made wishes. It felt like magic. A few minutes later, I closed my eyes briefly to savor the gentle night breeze. Not to sleep, but just to soak it in. When I opened them, Taylor was gone, completely vanished. Not just out of sight, but truly gone. Even her bike was nowhere in sight, while mine still rested beside the blanket. Panic flooded me. The beautiful, open field suddenly felt suffocating and cold, as if someone had dimmed the stars or muffled the world. The air chilled sharply, an eerie shift like stepping into a distorted version of the same place. I checked my phone. 3 a.m. exactly. Time didn't make sense. Only minutes ago, it had been well before midnight. I blinked, questioning if I'd fallen asleep, but I was sure I hadn't. I called Taylor's name, shouted, and spun in a circle, but she didn't answer. It felt impossible she'd leave me alone there, especially since we'd had no quarrel, just good vibes all night. I tried calling her phone repeatedly, but no response. Desperate and overwhelmed, I grabbed my bike and pedaled back toward home, every minute stretching forever. That ride was perhaps the scariest moment I'd ever experienced on two wheels. When I finally reached my driveway, gasping and afraid, I went straight to bed. The next morning, I texted Taylor, expecting an explanation, but instead she demanded one from me. She asked, "Where the hell did you go last night?" I told her what I remembered, waking alone at 3 a.m. But then she hit me with something that shook me to my core. She said it was her who woke up alone at 3 a.m. and I was the one who vanished. She'd waited for over an hour, then rode home furious, thinking I'd bailed on her. To her, I simply disappeared. Neither of us could explain what happened. We had no memory gaps aside from that night. No phone calls or texts to fill in the blanks. We swore we called each other after waking up alone, but those calls never showed up in phone logs. The mystery remained. 2 people, 1 empty night, and no answers. Eventually, we stopped talking about it. We tried to move on, but the terror lingered quietly beneath the surface. For months afterward, I'd lie awake staring at the stars, haunted by that night. Taylor and I rarely stargazed again, once or twice at most. Life went on, but the unanswered questions clung tightly. I'm no believer in the paranormal, but every time I tell this story, people suggest something unnatural occurred. Perhaps they're right, but I don't want to dwell on it. I even entertained the possibility that she lied. Whatever the truth, an uneasy feeling remains. Something happened that summer night I may never understand. I haven't heard from Taylor in years, but I'd bet she wonders about that night just as much as I do. These tales vividly illustrate that beneath the tranquil surface of summer evenings lie hidden layers of mystery and unease. Each story transforms what might seem like ordinary moments into unforgettable memories filled with fear, uncertainty, and unanswered questions. They force us to reconsider our understanding of reality and remind us that some secrets remain forever shrouded in darkness. If these chilling summer night stories captivated you, please consider subscribing for more compelling tales, liking the video, and leaving your thoughts in the comments. Sharing your own experiences or theories could spark fascinating discussions, so don't hesitate to share these narratives with friends who appreciate the mysterious and the unsettling. Your engagement helps keep these unforgettable memories alive and invites others to explore the eerie unknown alongside us.